Chimobi Ulocha was a first-class student in chemical engineering, 500 level, known for his intelligence, calm demeanor, and striking look. His tall, dark, and handsome demeanor made him the subject of many admiring glances, and his classmates often teased him by calling him my husband, a nickname that always made him blush. Tina Adebajo, a beautiful and determined Yoruba girl, was also studying chemical engineering, the same level as Chimobi, although she wasn't as academically outstanding as Chimobi. Her beauty made her popular among her peers. Tina had long had a crush on Chimobi. Little does she know Chimobi felt the same way about her, often stealing glances in her direction during lectures. One very fateful Saturday, the course rep posted the project groups in their WhatsApp group chats. Luckily, Tina and Chimobi were assigned to the same group. This coincidence brought them closer together as they began to collaborate on their projects, meeting regularly with their group members and spending time together outside the class. Chimobi found himself drawn to Tina's cheerful nature and her dedication to the project. Meanwhile, Tina cherished every moment they spent together, often inviting Chimobi over to her place whenever she cooked. It was during one of these invites Chimobi couldn't hold back his feelings. He confessed his feelings to her that he had long had a crush on her. Tina was overjoyed. She couldn't believe her ears. The most handsome boy in her department has a crush on her? She was surprised. She also confessed her feelings to Chimobi, and from that day forward, they began a relationship, but they kept it hidden from their classmates. Tina and Chimobi's relationship flourished in secrecy. They balanced their academic responsibilities with stolen moments of affection, sharing dreams and aspiration while keeping their love under wraps. Their cultural background, Tina being a Yoruba girl and Chimobi an Igbo boy, added an extra layer of complexity to their romance. They both were determined to make it work. After graduation, they were both posted to serve in the same states for their National Youth Service Corps, but in a different location. They made time for each other, cherishing their weekends meet-up and their occasional midweek surprise visit. Their bond grew stronger during this visit, and they often discussed their future plans together. They dreamt of a life together beyond the confines of the university and NYSC, envisioning a home filled with love and mutual respect. After completing their service year, Tina and Chimobi secured a job for themselves. Chimobi got a job in an oil company, while Tina got a job in a construction company as a personal assistant, a job not related to her course of study. After some months in their jobs, Tina's boss was transferred to Akure, which meant she as his PA would have to go with him. She got the news of her transfer and she was devastated. After work, she went to Chimobi's house to share the news with him. Chimobi's heart skipped when he heard the news. They both felt bad about it, and Tina opted to quit her job that she can't bear staying far from him, but Chimobi didn't buy the idea. He told her not to do so, that it's very difficult to get a job right now. He convinced her to go and promised to always come visit her at least once in 2 weeks. With a heavy heart, she listened to her boyfriend and traveled to Akure. During her journey to Akure, Chimobi called non-stop, knowing how lonely and sad the journey would be for her. When she landed at Akure, they were both on a video call until they slept off. The both adjusted to their long-distance relationship, always on phone calls, video chats, and occasional visits to Akure as promised. Each reunion was bittersweet, filled with joy at being together again and sorrow at the impending separation. After 2 months of long-distance relationship, Chimobi could no longer keep up with his frequent calls, chats, and travel due to the workload in his office that often makes him come back home very late and sleep off immediately without even having dinner. Tina felt so lonely and abandoned, often worrying about Chimobi's absence, even if he had explained to her how work has been very hectic. On a very good Friday after work, Tina decided to pay her boyfriend a surprise visit. When she landed Lagos and got to his apartment, her heart pounded with excitement and anticipation. Tina knocked on the door expecting to see Chimobi's smiling face. Instead, she was welcomed by a young lady she had never met before. Shocked and confused, Tina pushed past the lady and called out for Chimobi. He appeared from the kitchen, surprised but delighted to see her. However, Tina's joy quickly turned to fury. The young lady, Anna, left the parlor to her room. Who is she? Tina asked with a very angry tone. Chimobi sensed the tension and introduced the lady as Anna, a friend he had met during his youth service days. He explained that Anna had recently moved to Lagos for a job and had no place to stay, so he offered her a temporary accommodation. Tina was not convinced. Is this a hotel or a shoplet where you let people in and out? You never told me about this. Chimobi tried to calm her down, but her anger only grew. If you want me to stay, she has to leave now, Tina demanded. Chimobi was caught between his girlfriend and his friend. He pleaded with Tina to understand that her stay is just temporal. He assured her that there was nothing inappropriate about Anna's presence, and Tina asked him, who leaves a man and a woman with no blood ties together in a house? Chimobi understood he could never win at this. He asked that she gives him tomorrow to speak to Anna and she would leave by tomorrow. Tina reluctantly agreed to let Anna stay for the night. The next morning, Chimobi had a difficult conversation with Anna. He explained that Tina, his girlfriend, was not comfortable with her staying and that he would arrange her to stay in a hotel while he looks for a more permanent accommodation for her. Anna, though disappointed, understood the plight and agreed to leave. When Anna was gone, Chimobi returned to Tina, who was still visibly upset. He took her hands and begged her to understand. Please, Tina, let's not quarrel. We have only today and tomorrow to be together. Let's create good memories. I'm sorry I didn't tell you about it first. Tina's mind was clouded with doubt and suspicion. She couldn't help but wonder what Chimobi had been doing in her absence. Was Anna just a friend? Or was there more to their relationship that he was letting out? She pondered. The few days spent together was worthwhile. Chimobi made sure that he spoiled his girlfriend with love that could last till the next meeting. Breakfast in bed, cooking together, going shopping together, seeing movies together, and eating from the same plate. As Tina prepared to leave for Akure, the tension between them was palpable. She finally voiced her concerns. Chimobi, I need to know, can I trust you? What have you been doing while I was away? Chimobi looked into her eyes, his eyes filled with sincerity. Tina, I love you and only you. I would never do anything to hurt you. Anna is just a friend and nothing more. You are the only one I want to be with. Tina wanted to believe him, but the doubt lingered. It hurt Chimobi. Being apart, not knowing what's happening. I need you to be honest with me always. I promise, Tina, Chimobi said, holding her hands closely. We will get through this. The distance is temporal, but our love is forever. As Tina boarded the bus back to Akure, they shared a long embrace, both hoping that their love would withstand the challenges ahead. In the weeks that followed, Chimobi made efforts to reassure Tina. He called more frequently, shared details of his daily life, and made plans for their future. Tina slowly began to rebuild her trust in him and believed her boyfriend when he says nothing is between he and Anna. Chimobi worked tirelessly to prove his loyalty. He even visited Akure more often, reinforcing his commitment to their relationship. Their love, tested by distance and doubt, began to regain its strength. Eventually, Tina shared a very amazing news with Chimobi, telling him that the company has transferred her boss back to Lagos, which means she would be coming to Lagos very soon. Chimobi was the happiest man on earth. He couldn't wait to behold his girlfriend. Tina herself was overjoyed as she won't be away from Chimobi again. Tina got back to Lagos. They stayed together for a few months before returning to her parents' house. They focused on their future. They discussed on opening a joint account and a family business. One evening, as they walked hand in hand along the beach, Chimobi turned to Tina and said, let's promise each other that no matter what happens, we would always be honest and open. No more secrets, no more doubts. Tina smiled, her heart filled with love and hope. I promised Chimobi we'll face everything together. On a Saturday morning, while they were still on bed, Tina woke up to a sweet message from Chimobi, professing his undying love for her and asked her to marry him. Tina was so happy and she accepted his proposal. Tina was filled with joy and she went home to share the good news with her parents. But to her greatest surprise, her parents disapproved of her relationship with Chimobi. The same for Chimobi's family. His parents disapproved of him marrying a Yoruba girl. The weight of Tina's parents' disapproval weighed heavily on her heart. She shared her anguish with Chimobi during their late night conversation. Chimobi, his own heart heavy with pains of seeing Tina suffer, promised her his unwavering support. Tina, I love you more than anything in this world. I would never leave you no matter what happens. We will find a way to make them understand. I promise. Tina was filled with pains and told Chimobi, I can't imagine my life without you, Chimobi. But my parents, they won't accept us. What do we do? They talked late into the night, discussing possibilities and scenarios, brainstorming ways to bridge the gap between their families. Chimobi assured Tina that their love was worth fighting for and they vowed to face the challenges together, hands in hands. Despite Tina's stance in her words that Chimobi is the only one she loves, Tina's mother continued to press that she won't allow an Igbo man marry her daughter as far as she's still alive. These words were heavy and made Tina scared. Her mother told her to consider marrying Michael, a family friend's son who had recently returned from England, and she should not dare do otherwise. Every conversation at home seemed to revolve around Michael, his achievements, his suitability as a husband, and the future he could offer Tina. Tina, my dear, her mother would always say, Michael is a very good boy. He has a bright future ahead, and he's from a very respectable family. You should think about your future, you know. But Tina remained steadfast. Mom, I love Chimobi. I can't love anyone else. Her mother's persistence only grew stronger, becoming a constant source of tension in the house. Tina refused to entertain the idea of marrying anyone but Chimobi, despite the increasing pressure from her family. One evening, while Tina was preparing for a long awaited date with Chimobi, her mother informed her that Michael had come to visit. Tina, Michael is here to see you. He's downstairs. Please go and greet him, her mother urged. Tina's heart sank. Mom, I have plans with Chimobi, and we've been looking forward to this date. I can't cancel on him. Her mother's expression turned to fury. Tina, this is important. Michael is here to see you. You can't keep him waiting. Tina felt torn. She knew how stubborn her mother can be and the consequences of defying her. But mom, her mom cut her off, her voice now fixed with frustration. Tina, if you step out of this house and ignore Michael, don't bother coming back. I will disown you. Tina's world shattered. She couldn't believe those words she heard from her mother. She found herself standing at the crossroad, torn between her love for Chimobi and her family's expectation. As her phone buzzed with missed calls from Chimobi, her mind raced. She knew she had to make a choice, but either decision seemed to lead to heartbreak. Reluctantly, with sadness in her eyes, Tina descended downstairs to meet Michael. Her heart heavy with guilt and sorrow, she greeted him, her mind elsewhere, consumed by the thoughts of Chimobi. Meanwhile, Chimobi waited anxiously for Tina's response. Each unanswered call heightened his worry. He couldn't shake off the feeling that something was wrong and their plans for this evening were slipping away. Hours passed, and with each passing minute, Chimobi's anxiety grew. He replayed their conversation in his mind, searching for clues, trying to understand what had gone wrong. When the realization finally dawned on him that Tina might not come, his heart sank. He felt a deep sense of loss and helplessness, knowing that their love was tested in ways he had never imagined. Back at Tina's home, the atmosphere was tense as she sat with Michael, their conversation strained and awkward. Her mind wandered, her thoughts consumed by Chimobi and the promise of their dates that had been ruined. Tina, is everything okay? Michael asked, noticing her distracted demeanor. She forced a smile. Yes, Michael, I'm sorry. I wasn't expecting to see you. Michael nodded. I understand. I didn't inform you I was coming, but I told your mom. She probably forgot to pass the message to you. Tina nodded, uninterested in whatever he was saying. The night passed, and Chimobi got no call from Tina. The following day, Tina called Chimobi to apologize for standing him up, telling him her parents didn't allow her leave the house because of a family guest. Without much questioning, Chimobi understood and asked if they could fix another date, and she promised to communicate the day and time for their next date. Days turned into weeks. Tina was faced with torment from her parents on marrying Michael. Her father, a traditional Yoruba man who deeply cherished his people and their custom, would not permit his only child to marry outside their tribe. And being a retired military man, she was scared of her father, especially when he gets angry. Chimaobi called all through the week, but Tina refused to pick and couldn't bring herself to return Chimaobi's calls. She felt trapped between her love for him and her father's stern warning against their relationship. Despite her promises to visit him someday, she found herself increasingly entangled in her parents' plan to marry Michael. One cool Sunday evening, Tina's parents summoned her for a brief family meeting. Her father spoke at length about their family lineage, emphasizing the importance of marrying within their tribe to preserve their heritage. He adamantly forbade Tina from marrying or seeing Chimaobi, warning of dire consequences if she defied him. His words felt like a death sentence to her, and she left the meeting feeling utterly devastated. That night, alone in her room, Tina cried herself to sleep. The pains of losing Chimaobi and the uncertainty of her future without him weighed heavily on her heart. Each day that passed without hearing from Chimaobi only deepened her sorrow. Meanwhile, Chimaobi's world had crumbled around him. With each unanswered calls and passing days of silence from Tina, his heart grew heavier. He couldn't fathom the thought of losing Tina to someone else. Driven by desperation and a need for closure, he decided to visit Tina at her house. He hoped to understand what was happening and to convince her to fight for their love. However, when he arrived, Tina's father met him at the door with harsh words and a clear message. No daughter of mine would marry an Igbo man. Chimaobi was shattered. The rejection cut deep, leaving him feeling abandoned and betrayed. He returned home that night, drowned in sorrow. The pain of losing Tina and the feeling of she had given up on them without fighting was almost unbearable. Months passed, and Chimaobi remained in a state of desolation. He refused to answer his parents' calls, consumed by the grief and heartache. His mother, unable to bear her son's silence, decided to visit him. She found Chimaobi in a pitiable state, his spirit broken and his health deteriorating. She listened as he poured out his heart, expressing his anguish over losing Tina and the pain of their separation. His mother saw the pains in her son's eyes and saw how he was suffering. She wiped her son's tears and said, "My son, if this is because your father and I said you should not marry the Yoruba girl, then marry her. I will talk to your father. Your happiness means a lot to me. I can't see my only son in this way." His mother was not still getting his pains. He told his mom that Tina's family refused their daughter from marrying him because he's an Igbo. At that point, all that his mother could say was, "My son, don't give up. When there is life, there is hope." During Michael's infrequent meetings, Michael noticed Tina's persistent sadness and absent-mindedness. He was concerned and he confronted her one day, urging her to open up and tell him what has been eating her up, convincing her that she could count on him. Reluctantly, Tina confessed everything about her parents' rejection of her relationship with Chimaobi, the one she loves. Michael listened attentively, empathizing with Tina's pain. He encouraged her not to ignore Chimaobi or shut him out, advising her to fight for their love if it truly meant so much to her. He then shared his own family situation with Tina. He revealed how his mother wants him to marry her, and his father remained indifferent of his choice. He explained that he already has someone in mind to marry, an Igbo girl, and he truly loves her. That he is only here because of his mother, and he also wants a friend to talk to during his stay in Nigeria. He went ahead telling her that he had no intentions of marrying her, he only wants to be friends with her. Tina was shocked to hear that. Her heart felt like a heavy burden was lifted. She asked in reassurance, "You said you have an Igbo girlfriend you want to get married to?" Michael replied, "Yes, I do. So please don't hurt yourself. I just want us to be friends and that's all." Tina was so happy and thanked him and accepted that they could be friends. After Michael's advice and encouragement, Tina finally mustered the courage to call Chimaobi and apologize for ignoring him. They agreed to meet that night at his place, and when they did, Tina poured out her heart, explaining how her father had threatened to disown her if she continued her relationship with him. Overwhelmed with love and determination not to lose each other again, Tina suggested that they elope. Chimaobi, equally desperate to be with Tina, readily agreed. They made plans swiftly and quietly, deciding to flee to Ghana, where they could be together without the shadows of parental disapproval over them. In Ghana, away from the pressure of their families, Chimaobi and Tina found solace in each other's arms. They rented a modest apartment and spent their days exploring the vibrant city, enjoying their newfound freedom and the joy of being together. For 3 months, they lived in blissful isolation, cherishing every moment of their togetherness away from home. They built a stronger bond, reaffirming their commitment to each other and their future. After months in Ghana, Tina found out she was already 8 weeks pregnant. She and Chimaobi were so happy about it, they couldn't contain their happiness. They made the decision to return to Nigeria to share the good news with their families, hoping they would have a change of mind. Their families had been frantic with worry during their absence, bombarding them with calls and messages. Despite their fears, Chimaobi and Tina knew they had to face their family and confront the consequences of their actions. Back in Nigeria, they summoned the courage to visit Tina's father's house. They stood before her parents, nervous and resolute. Tina, with Chimaobi by her side, announced to her parents that she is ready to fight for the love of her life no matter what. Her father listened, his expression unreadable. Tina's mother, torn between her husband's expectation and the love for her daughter, looked anxiously. Finally, after a tensed silence, Tina's father spoke. He outlined his concerns and fears, emphasizing the importance of family and tradition. But when Tina revealed she was pregnant, her parents' expression was terrifying. With Tina being the only child, her father couldn't bear the thought of losing her or staying apart from them. Despite his initial resistance, he couldn't deny his love for his daughter and his desire to see her happy. Reluctantly, he spoke to them, giving strict warning to Chimaobi never to hurt his daughter. He gave his blessings and support, knowing that their child's future and happiness mattered a lot to them. Tina's mother, overwhelmed with emotions, embraced her daughter and Chimaobi, offering her support and love. The tension eased as the family began to reconcile with the reality of Chimaobi and Tina's love. Chimaobi and Tina's journey was filled with challenges and sacrifices, but their love stood the test of time and adversity. They had fought against all odds to be together, and their commitment to each other grew stronger with each passing day. As they prepared for the arrival of their child, Chimaobi and Tina got married. They embarked on the next chapter of their lives, ready to face whatever challenges comes their way, knowing that together they could overcome anything. Thank you so very much guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed this story. Please do also like, share and subscribe to Substance TV for more amazing stories, movie reviews, recommendations and trendings. See you guys in my next video. Until then, stay splendid.